In today's podcast, I'll look at the song Cold Blows the Wind, also known as The Unquiet Grave. It's a tale of love that continues after death, until the lover's ghost returns to ask for peace within the grave. I'll sing excerpts from the tunes and end in a full performance.
How cold the winds do blow, my love, how chill the drops of rain. I've never had but one true love, in greenwood he lies slain. I'll do as much for my true love as any young girl may. I'll sit and mourn all on his grave for 12 months and a day. And when 12 months and a day was o'er, his ghost began to speak. Who is it sits upon my grave and wets my winding sheet?
That tune and words were collected in 1904 by Cecil Sharp from Mrs. Emma Overard of Langport. The song tells of a woman, sometimes a man, whose true love had previously died a year and a day ago. The bereaved lover constantly visits the grave weeping for the lost love. The lover's ghost appears to tell that excessive grief is disturbing their afterlife. The lover asks for one last kiss, and they will leave the deceased to the grave. The ghost warns that it is now of the grave, and a kiss would result in the lover's death. Some versions of the ghost set some impossible tasks. The earliest actual reference to this song in print dates back to the early 19th century. There is no indication of the song's existence prior to 1800. The song appeared on broadsides under the title Cold Blows the Wind, The Mournful Lovers and The Weeping Lover. The first printing reference to the song from the oral source was in the book Ancient Ballads and Songs from the North of Scotland, edited by Peter Buchan in 1828. The first printing to include a tune was in Shropshire Folklore, edited by Charlotte Sophia Byrne in 1883. This version was reprinted in the English County Songs, edited by Lucy Broadwood in 1893. The song was found to be widespread and popular in the southern counties of England by the collectors of the English Folk Song Society, and the tunes in the main adhere to a similar root tune.
When 12 months and a day was past, this young man he arose. What makes thou weep all over my grave? For I cannot take my repose. One kiss from your clay-cold lips, one kiss I wish and crave. If I have one kiss from your clay-cold lips, you can turn back to your grave. Go fetch me a nut from a dungeon deep, and water from a stone, and milk out of a fair maid's breast, where milk there never was none. How can I fetch a nut from a dungeon deep, or water from a stone? How can I get milk from a fair maid's breast, where milk there never was none?
That tune and words were collected in the 1950s by Fred Hamer from the wonderful singing of May Bradley, a traveller living in Shropshire. In some versions of Cold Blows the Wind, the singers include 2 verses of impossible tasks. Most of the replies to the task states that the request is not possible. These verses are also included in the broadside printings. The version collected by Baring Gould from blacksmith J. Woodrich of Thistleton in 1889 gives the answer to the riddle as:
Go fetch me a light from a dungeon deep, bring water from a stone, and likewise milk from a maiden's breast, which never babe hath none. She stroked a light from out a flint, a nice bell pressed she. She pressed the milk from a Johnny's wort, and so she did all three.
The introduction to the ballad in the English and Scottish popular ballads edited by Francis James Child gives examples from literature and folklore regarding excessive grief for a departed loved one and its effect on the departed. This belief has been a widespread part of folklore in Britain and Europe for many centuries. It's Professor Child who gave the title The Unquiet Grave, whereas the singers from whom the song was collected generally referred to it as Cold Blows the Wind. The theme of Cold Blows the Wind also links into the old belief that a pledge of love or engagement was binding even after death. This is a root belief that links into older versions of ballads such as Sweet William's Ghost and The Demon Lover. Although Cold Blows the Wind does not openly mention a pledge of love, it might explain the lover's persistence and its effect on the deceased. The classic ballads treat ghosts in an almost matter-of-fact manner. Their presence is not a cause for astonishment, or for that matter rarely threatening. They have a purpose to either let a loved one know about the death or pass on a message from the grave.
'Twas down in Cupid's garden where you and I would walk. The finest flower that ever was is withered to a stalk. Is withered to a stalk, sweetheart, the flower will ne'er return. And since I lost my own sweetheart, what can I do but mourn? Oh, don't you see the fire, sweetheart, the fire that burns so blue, where my poor soul tormented is, while I stay here with you? And if you wasn't my own sweetheart, as I know well you be, I'd rend you up in pieces small as leaves upon the tree. Mourn not for me, my dearest dear, mourn not for me, I crave. I must leave you and all the world, and turn into my grave.
That tune and words were collected by the Hammond brothers in 1906 from Mrs. Jane Han of Stoke Abbot in Dorset. In ballads, the vision of the corpse and its dwelling after death is often at odds with the Christian message of instant entry into heaven or hell. The ballads often imply that the souls live with the body within the grave. Morning wets the winding sheets. The ghost has breath that smells of the grave. This is in line with the Abrahamic belief that the souls remain buried until the final call at Judgment Day, when the souls rise up from the grave and are judged on their merits to enter heaven or hell. This is a fine song for singing with some good singable tunes. I'll leave you with a version collected in 1904 by Cecil Sharp, from Mrs. Rees of Hambridge in Somerset.
How cold the winds do blow, my love, how chill the drops of rain. I never had but one true love, and in greenwood he lies slain. And in greenwood he lies slain. I'll do as much for my true love as any young girl may. I'll sit and mourn all on his grave for 12 months and a day. For 12 months and a day. And when 12 months and a day was past, the ghost began to speak. What makes you sit upon my grave, and will not let me sleep, and will not let me sleep? 'Tis I, my own true love, your own true love, she said. I want a kiss from your lily white lips, and that is all I ask. and that is all I ask. My lips are cold as clay, sweetheart, my breath smells heavy and strong, and if you kiss my lily white lips, your time will not be long. Your time will not be long. Do you recall the garden, love, where you and I once walked? The finest flower that ever grew is withered to a stalk, is withered to a stalk. The flower is withered and dead, my love, the bloom cannot return. So your embrace within the tomb is all that I do yearn, is all